Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some more Magnet Warrior. Magnet Warrior's been performing very well lately, not just for me, but in general. We've seen it do well in community tournaments pretty consistently, but also in the latest top 10 rating duel decks for Season 52. Two of those were Magnet Warrior decks. Now, over on patreon.com/hexlex, I actually uploaded a video where we go over those top 10 rating duel lists. I do that every month over on Patreon, as well as going over new card reviews as they're revealed, as well as also replays I don't have time to get to necessarily here on the channel, both of mine, and we watch some duel lives. I upload over there at least 3 times a week. If you're interested in checking out some Patreon content, head over to patreon.com/hexlex. None of those videos get uploaded here on YouTube, by the way. It's all only on Patreon. But anyway, we're in the midst of this going second mirror match against another Magnet Warrior deck. Now, obviously, I was able to fire off not only the Fulos, but the Maxi. So my opponent is having quite a bit of a hurdle to play through. But in spite of that, or maybe even because of it, we're actually going to get into a pretty intense grind game here. Opponent's going to fire off the triple attack, not to hand rip, but actually to draw 2 here. They're going to normal summon Electromagnet Beta, activate in order to add Magnet Warrior Sigma minus. This is, of course, following me Ash Blossoming the Gallant Grant, so they couldn't get to Block Dragon. But here they have the Adamantipator Researcher anyway, so it's kind of looking like they're going to get to pop off no matter what. Now, I'm going to draw a Super Poly, and we also saw a Super Poly excavated from our opponent's deck. This is actually a tech card that's been seeing a lot of popularity, not only in Magnet Warrior, but in general, as obviously it's very good against Cool Tune, and just a really good board breaker in general. So, if your deck has the extra deck space for 2 or 3 slots, well, really 3, right? Mud Dragon, Garura, and the Sea Monster of Theseus. If your extra deck has room for those 3, you should highly consider playing a playset of Super Polymerization. It's very good. Now, I think one of the reasons my opponent's really popping off here is that they know I have resolved Fulos, meaning I don't get to keep every single one of these cards. I will have to put at least some of them back. That said, I'm totally fine with that, as long as I get to keep this Super Polymerization is the one I'm really concerned about. I've got 2. If I can keep both, that would be excellent, but as long as I can keep at least one of them, I really like my odds here. Okay, here's Fulos, putting cards back. There was one of the Super Polys, not ideal. We really love one of these betas. Yeah, there we go, to get put back. And there we go. So all in all, we're still going to end on, well, this is 11 cards, right? Or 12, because our opponent's got 6 on the field. So it should be 6 plus what they have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep. Among them, I see Adamantipator Analyzer, I see Koa'ki Guardian, I see Super Poly. I'm thinking about all these cards as we're going into our turn here. Drawing for turn, there's the 3rd Magnet Bonding, again, not helpful. We're going to Special Analyzer first when we have no monsters on the field. Then I'm going to Super Poly, pitch to Lucian, fuse their Dogard and Naturia Beast into Flux Oceanfeld. Which, by the way, I super slept on this card when it was released with the Magnet Warrior stuff. It's actually insane. And it's a really good Super Poly target for the mirror match and other matchups. What other matchups? Stay tuned. You'll see in one of these later replays a very surprising matchup where Flux Oceanfeld comes up. I'm going to throw out a couple copies of Koa'ki Guardian. That way it'll stop my opponent from doing anything funny with their Flux Oceanfeld. As we try to bounce their... that's right, because we tried to bounce their back row with our Flux Oceanfeld, bouncing the Analyzer. We're then going to go for the Sigma Minus, fusing with the Epsilon in hand for Plasma Magnum. And then we're going to link into the Asa, the Earth Charmer Immovable. Now here, my plan at this point was to try to just get the Baron de Fleur on the field, because I was really worried about this last face down card, so I was trying to go Researcher plus Block Dragon to do that. Also could have used Asa in order to revive like their Naturia Beast, but obviously, even if I did that action first, Naturia Beast cannot stop Super Polymerization, because neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, and Naturia Beast is not a continuous effect. It is a quick effect that activates every single time. So yeah, here they get to Super Poly me, and I was actually pretty worried they would fuse away my 2 Koa'ki Guardians, but they're actually going to fuse the Guardian plus the Asa into Mud Dragon. I guess they didn't want me to have one of their Earth monsters like Naturia Beast. However, because they left me with a Koa'ki Meriu Guardian, their Flux Ashenfeld can't threaten me at all here. I can just chain my Guardian, and then, yeah, negate and destroy it. They do still have the Telusian to think about, as well as, of course, Mud Dragon preventing me from targeting any of their cards, but once we get the Baron de Fleur online, we have another negate up, I'll feel a lot better, which we're doing right now. Now, obviously, I can't destroy any of their monsters with the Baron because it targets, but not only do we have the negate, but again, or not only again do we have the negate, but also 3k attack lets me battle over anything on their field. Gonna extra normal summon Koa'ki Meriu Guardian, going for the plus/minus. Now, at this point, I was getting pretty low on my timer, so I was a little bit worried about, well, obviously running out of time. I think at this stage, I had like 30 seconds left. And I think if I had a little more time to think, I could have played more optimally and found an actual OTK line here, but again, with less than 30 seconds on my clock at this point, I was like, whatever, I'll just swing with everything I have on board. I know it's not lethal, but even if it's not lethal, my opponent's only going to end up with 2 cards in hand on their turn. They don't have Block Dragon in their graveyard, greatly reducing their ability to come back, and I've got IP, Baron, Telusian, and Flux Ashenfeld. Like, I should be completely fine here. And sure enough, they're going to draw and then simply pass right back over to me without making any plays at all. So after drawing for turn, I'm going to move straight to battle phase, and since she never gets to do this, I'm going to finish our opponent off with the IP Masquerena. So yeah, obviously, Fulos and Maxi definitely carried there. I know I always get comments whenever I have any duel where I dare to resolve one of those hand traps, so people are like, this game doesn't count because you did those. But it's like, these hand traps are a part of our decks. They're a part of every deck. They are an aspect of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think it is important to show replays like this, right? And even, you know, hand traps aside, it was still pretty decent grindy back and forth, pushing through our opponent's board there. So anyway, let's go into our next replay. Okay, here's another really good back and forth game where we're going second, this time against K9 Vanquish Soul. So let's see how well we can open here. Okay, we've got Ash Blossom and Super Poly. Super Poly, obviously the usage of that will be a little bit dodgy. It's going to really depend on what my opponent actually has on board. They're going to go Dr. Madlove for the field spell start. I'm going to Ash Blossom the field spell itself. I like to wait for this just in case they already have the field spell in hand and they add Snow Devil off of the Madlove instead. Okay, so they're going to end up linking away the Madlove into Rock. I'm really hoping that my opponent has a kind of brick hand and this is enough to stop them. But we'll have to see if they just go Holly Suit here. Nope, they're going to pass. Obviously very ideal for us. Alright, now they were going to hit us with the Dimension Shifter, which is less than ideal, because we very obviously want our stuff to go to the graveyard. In fact, Conduction Warrior Linear Magnum plus/minus, I can't even summon this, because the condition to summon this card is to send monsters from the hand, deck, or field to the graveyard. Again, not part of an effect, that's a condition, a requirement you must meet before playing this card. However, I am unable to meet the requirement because I cannot send cards to the graveyard because of Dimension Shifter. So, pretty brutal, honestly. I'm just going to set Super Poly and pass here. Not even going to try to use one of my Deuterons. I'll save those. Alright, now here they're going to summon Holly Sue by revealing the Madlove. Obviously, like the literal worst case scenario for me, this top deck of theirs was very, very brutal. However, I get to flip up Super Poly here. And you might be thinking, Holly Sue, Rock the Vanquisher, Holly Sue, they're different attributes, they're different types. How could you possibly fuse these together? And I was wondering the same thing, and that's when it occurred to me. Wait a second. A rock monster plus a level 5 or higher earth monster makes the Flux Ashenfeld. How cool is that? As soon as I saw the activation window for Super Poly, I was like, wait, really? And then sure enough, here it is. Oh, perfect. Love it. Love the unexpected surprise, you know, Super Poly there. From my end, a surprise as well. Now here they're going to normal summon a Madlove and then try to go for another search off the start. But we're able to chain Flux Ashenfeld to bounce the field spell so it can't resolve. I think I should have just bounced the Madlove as soon as it was normal summoned. If I was thinking clearly and not just celebrating that Super Poly play, I would have done that. But because I missed my window, I just decided to bounce the start. I think, could I have bounced the Mad Love anyway? Because this needs to check attribute, but also, no, it checks attribute at resolution. I think I could have bounced Mad Love anyway, and the search wouldn't have gotten off, because it wouldn't have been on the field anymore, and Start would have been able to check the attribute to see what to add. I think that's how that would have worked, but like I said, I just didn't want to take any chances. So anyway, going into my turn again, now we can really pop off here. We're going to make the Gallant Granite, but then I had a thought. I was like, what if they have Droll? Let me just check something real quick. I'm going to Deuteron for Magnet Bonding, and sure enough, they did have a Droll and Lockbird. Now, the reason I decided to go for Magnet Bonding was to make a Flux Ashenfeld during my opponent's turn. However, when they went Mad Love and revealed a second Mad Love to me, that's when I realized, oh, I actually just have this duel in the bag. Like, yeah, I just got drolled and wasn't able to go full combo by searching Block Dragon. But what I can do here is I can go Sigma minus F to fuse with plus minus to make Flux Ashenfeld again. Flux Ashenfeld effect to revive plus minus. Now I'm going to link Gallant Granite and plus minus into the SP Little Knight. And then now I can use Little Knight in order to banish the field spell and then set Magnet Bonding. This isn't really going to do much, but now I have a banish and a bounce going into their turn. And I know they only have Mad Love in hand, plus whatever they top decked. And Mad Love by itself does nothing at all here, because the field spell is already obviously gone. And I'm guessing that other face down card was Snow Devil, because when they summoned Mad Love, they didn't search anymore. So I'm guessing that was probably a useless Snow Devil. And being K9 Vanquish Soul with a hand like that, it doesn't matter what they top deck there, right? If it's like Jokel or Lantern, well, if it's Lantern, they can revive Holly. No, Lantern only revives K9 monsters. So yeah, if it's like Jokel or Lantern, that doesn't do anything. Izana doesn't do anything. Even other Vanquish Soul cards don't really do anything. It would have had to have been like exactly Raisin pretty much for them to have a chance here. So very, very fun back and forth and very unexpected Super Poly target against K9 VS, but we love to see it. Let's go into our next replay. And continuing in our trend of losing coin flips and, well, you'll see. We are going to be going second against Dracotail. Branded Dracotail, but with a heavy branded emphasis. My opponent's build is playing a lot more of the branded stuff than the Dracotail stuff. It's almost using Dracotail as the side engine. Now here we are going second, and our opponent's hand unfortunately doesn't look that great. They're going to pass right back over to us. We're going to fire off a draw phase Fuelos and a second Fuelos, which this is kind of to be expected when your opponent just passes right back to you, right? Obviously they are going to have a bunch of hand traps in hand more often than not. So we are under Fuelos. I'm going to normal summon Koa'ki Mirror Guardian. Our opponent's going to fire off an Effect Veiler against it. This tells me they assuredly have another hand trap here, which you can pretty obviously infer from them passing and doing nothing else. Oh, also, I'm mixing up games. This is a regular Dracotail deck, not the branded Dracotail list I was thinking of earlier. But anyway, so yeah, I let the Veiler resolve against the Koa'ki Mirror Guardian here. And then when I activate Magnet Bonding, sure enough, they have an Ash Blossom. But obviously, that doesn't change things, really, as far as, like, the Koa'ki Mirror Guardian goes. Like, we always let Veiler resolve, because the alternative is that Koa'ki Mirror Guardian just sends itself, and there's no point to that, right? So I'm going to battle and then pass. I actually feel really good about my position here, because think about it. My opponent had no plays on their turn. They're essentially in top deck mode, and I've got a Koa'ki Mirror Guardian up. Now, even though it's negated, I do still have to reveal a rock monster, which obviously is not going to be an issue here. And our opponent's going to concede. So yeah, Koa'ki Mirror Guardian just casually soloing. Card is insanely powerful. I kind of think it's low-key one of Magnet Warrior / the Rock Attribute's best cards. Everyone's on Block Dragon. Like, the second this deck does even a little bit well, it's always ban Block Dragon, ban Block Dragon. But I think that Koa'ki Mirror Guardian is actually, like, low-key the best rock monster. In this play session alone, normal summon Koa'ki Mirror Guardian into activate Magnet Bonding won me so many games, and I think I did that a lot more than I actually resolved Block Dragon's effect, but I digress. Let's go into, I have one last brief replay to show you, and then we'll finish off with the deck list. Okay, so this is going to be us up against Kewl. We are actually going first this time. However, I wanted to show us kind of playing through some of our opponent's disruptions that they have on our turn 1 here. So, and yet again, we're seeing the classic opener that I love, Guardian, and then Magnet Bonding. We use the Magnet Bonding to add the the Conduction Warrior Magnum plus minus. Opponent's going to fire off a Drone Lockbird. I'm going to chain the Koa'ki Guardian against that. I'm pretty sure they've got another hand trap, but the Drone Lockbird is hugely devastating to the Magnet Warrior combo line. So we definitely want to make sure that doesn't resolve. Now here they are going to use Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion against our Sigma Plus, which looks really, really bad. However, because I have Sigma Minus in hand, what I can do is fuse it with the plus minus on field to make the Flux Oceanfeld. Now I'm going to use Flux Oceanfeld to revive the Epsilon, and then Epsilon gets to activate, sending that Omega Plus to summon Sigma Minus, dump Teleucion, and now here is the Gallant Granite. So as you can see, even through the Ghost Spell interrupting us, we're still able to, thanks to Flux Oceanfeld, very much MVP in this deck. I hugely slept on this card. But thanks to that, we're able to still pivot into the Gallant Granite and be able to fully pop off with our combo line anyway. Because obviously here, we're going to go for the Block Dragon. And I have more than enough Earth monsters in the graveyard in order to actually summon it. Now here's Asa sending away the Block Dragon, and at this point our opponent concedes, which is, obviously, that makes sense, right? But I will say that, like, without the Guardian against the Droll and Lockbird, that would have gone a lot differently. Droll and Lockbird does end up being one of the bigger weaknesses of this deck. Let me actually go, let's go into the deck list, and then I'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so here is my list for Adamantipator Magnet Warrior. It's actually very similar to one of those top 10 rating duel lists that I was talking about, but I'm not on the Barrier Statues of the Earth. While, obviously, I completely understand why these cards are used, Barrier Statue of the Drought, that one. Obviously, I understand why people play this, but it's not my preference. This is one of the very, very few instances in which I will play a slightly less optimized build for my own preference's sake. I think having at least one of these is probably optimal in your Magnet Warrior list, but I don't want to play this card, so I'm not. Anyway, so as far as like Magnet Warrior goes, I think this deck is very, very powerful. I put it at tier 3. I think I put it like towards the top of tier 3 on my last tier list, and yeah, I mean, I could see it being like maybe more towards the end of tier 2, but I don't think the top of tier 3 is necessarily a bad place for it either. I had a commenter ask, you know, well, if a deck is doing so well in rating duels, how could it be a tier 3 deck? And you know, tier 3 does not mean a deck is bad by any means. You see tier 3 decks do well all the time. Hell, you see rogue decks do well in tournaments and in rating duels quite a bit as well. But I think Magnet Warrior is like bottom of tier 2, top of tier 3 for a couple of reasons. The main one's going to be Droll and Lockbird. It's hugely, hugely weak to this card, a lot more so than a lot of other meta decks, right? Like, granted, Droll is obviously useful against a ton of the meta decks out there, but other decks at least have a line through Droll and Lockbird. Magnet Warrior really doesn't get that, especially if they Droll when you Gallant Granite to search Block Dragon. Obviously, the whole point of Block Dragon is to search a bunch of rock monsters. If you're relying on that resolving, then at that stage in the combo line, there's like beyond like SP or maybe IP plus Block Dragon and pass, there's not a lot you can really do, which you do feel a lot of the time. I think this deck is also, in general, just a little bit weaker to hand traps than other lists, except for when you open Koa'ki Guardian. As mentioned, I think this is like the best card in this deck. Again, a lot of people like to cry about Block Dragon, but I really do think Koa'ki Guardian is pulling a lot of the weight here. A lot of people are really focused on consistency and power, right? Especially power. When a lot of people talk about why decks should get banned, or cards should get banned, or decks should get hit or whatever, they often focus on what the end board looks like, but in 2026 Yu-Gi-Oh!, you really, more than that, have to be thinking, what are my lines through hand traps? Because, yeah, the end board can be nice and flashy, but when you've got decks like Koa'ki, which are literally half hand traps, and or super polys in order to break your board, you really got to think about pushing through stuff like that more than the actual end result. Because a lot of the time, you're not going to end on your idealized end board. Like, yeah, the whole like Elf and Nat Beast and Baron and Flux Oceanfeld and Conduction Warrior Plasma Magnum, like that end board is really scary looking, but as you saw in the games that I showed, I never ended on all of that. And in fact, in my whole play session, I never ended on all of that, because more than the end board, what mattered was my ability to play through hand traps. It's really a thing you gotta be thinking about. This deck, through the Koa'ki Meriu Guardian, again, does have a lot of ability to play through hand traps, but if you don't have access to the Guardian, then things become a little bit more dicey. So, I don't know, at the end of the day, I think that this deck is really the main thing it's lacking is, again, that push through disruption. It's got the consistency, and there's no questioning it's got the power level. But again, in 2026 Yu-Gi-Oh!, you have to be thinking about not only hand traps, but turn zero plays as well, as those are becoming more and more frequent. Now, as far as like some deck building choices here, as mentioned, a lot of this list was lifted from the decks that did well in the latest Rating Duel Top 10. But some interesting things about this list. One, or this deck in general, one, we actually play Meriu because it's a rock monster. A lot of other decks have cut this as a hand trap because of deck's natural ability to play or push through it. But if you think about it, Meriu is actually still pretty good against this deck for a lot of the same reasons that Droll is, right? Unless you have the Koa'ki Meriu Guardian, these high impact hand traps are really going to have a lot of ability to stop your board as you're comboing. Whereas, again, a lot of other decks like Koa'ki will do its combo line in under 5 summons sometimes. But either way, they're going to have a way to play through and or around the Meriu. Let's see here. What else is kind of unique about this list? We're on more Adamantipator stuff, which I definitely think is the way to go. Like having at the very least Analyzer, if not also the Seeker, I think it's called? Yeah, this one here. I thought about playing a single copy of Seeker, but at the same time, I don't really like it as much because this one can only be special summoned if you have specifically an Adamantipator monster, as opposed to Researcher, which is any rock monster, or Analyzer, which is just going second if you have no monsters and your opponent has a monster, you can just special summon this. This one's special summon from hand condition is a little bit more specific. At the same time though, you could always just use Block Dragon to grab Researcher and Seeker, special Researcher, and then special Seeker. So it's definitely worth considering. You could also play a third copy of Researcher, and that would be totally fine. Love the Cardigan. I love Cardigan. When I used to play Adamantipator, this card is amazing. It's a lot better than you might think, just looking at it. It definitely does come up. All in all, I really like having more variety of rock monsters to grab off of Block Dragon. The old Fiendsmith Magnet Warrior build I was on last season was a little bit too rigid, right? Because a lot of the time in that build, you couldn't even search Researcher if you opened 2 beta, because the only way to search Researcher was 2 Electromagnet beta plus the Researcher. But here, obviously, we have a ton more options with other level 2 rock monsters, so that we can go Researcher level 2 plus a 4. That is another reason to play Seeker as well as Cardigan, is that in case you open the Cardigan, you'll still have another level 2 to be able to search out. But yeah, I could go on and on, honestly, about Magnet Warrior. I have a lot of thoughts regarding this list, but I also am eager to hear what you have to say. So let me know what you think of this list and this deck overall in the comments below. For the time being, let's going to go ahead and do it. Thank you, as always, for watching. But let's go ahead and move on to our outro, where we can thank our YouTube members and those Patreon subscribers as well. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which, by the way, is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.